Now for the third characteristic of entrepreneurial knowledge. Entrepreneurial knowledge is tacit and inarticulate. What does this mean? It means that entrepreneurial action teaches us how to perform certain actions. It shows us how to acquire practical habits of behavior, what English speakers call know-how. So, we set out to gain some know-how, and there is a learning curve, and we need practice. We are developing habits of conduct, know-how. But we do not come to know exactly, in scientific or technical terms, the elements of our knowledge, how they relate to each other, nor the foundations they rest on. Knowledge of facts like these is called know-that, and we could give many examples of know-how. For instance, I remember how I learned to ride a bicycle. I will never forget it. I was small, 4 or 5 years old. It was in El Escorial, not San Lorenzo, but El Escorial de Ebayo. My parents had a house in a residential area called Prado Tornero. At any rate, they bought my sister a girl's bike. Back then, there used to be girls' bikes and boys' bikes. For some mysterious reason, boys' bikes used to have a horizontal bar that was very uncomfortable, especially if you fell onto it. However, girls' bikes had a curved frame, supposedly to make room for their skirts. Girls' bikes were much more comfortable. Anyway, I wanted to learn to ride a bike. How do you think I learned to ride a bike? You must be one of those who fell onto the bar, am I right? Okay. So, how did I learn to ride a bike? Did my father buy me a manual? Did I say to him, "Get me a manual on how to ride a bike"? Did I study the manual? No one has ever learned to ride a bike that way. What I did was, I boldly got on my sister's bike, once they had taken off the training wheels, and I tried to ride down a hill. And you know what happened? I took a terrible fall. I skinned my leg up to my knee and went home crying, "Ow, mummy, mummy!" Well, for a while I stayed away from the bicycle, but my goal was to learn, because I wanted to know how to ride a bike, like the big kids. And so I pointed the bike down the hill again and again and again, until somehow, mysteriously, I managed to keep my balance and not fall. In other words, I developed the practical habit of entrepreneurial conduct that enabled me to ride a bicycle. How many times did Miguel Indurain win the Tour de France? 5. Do you think Indurain knows the formulas of mathematical physics that permit him to keep his balance and not fall? That is, does he know the precise angle at which he needs to lean the bike, so that in a curve, the centrifugal force will keep him stuck to the ground and he won't fall? And does he enter these formulas into a computer, along with the specific data of bicycle weight and speed, the wind that day, etc.? And does the computer then automatically calculate the results and send them to the bike, so that the automatic pilot can... No. What Indurain has developed is practical knowledge on how to ride a bicycle. He has tacit knowledge. It's like when you know something, but you don't know how you know it. It's like when a young woman, any of my students perhaps, goes to buy a dress. My daughters go to Zara. They tell me, "Dad, Zara has all the latest fashions, and the clothes are cheap, so I can buy them and get rid of them." And they are always at Zara. Zara is everywhere. In Vienna there is a huge Zara store, and in Bratislava, at the Zara store, it comes to blows, people fighting over the dresses. Quite a curious phenomenon, Zara. The other day, the CEO of El Corte Inglés said to me, very sadly, they've stolen 200 billion of the former pesetas from us in sales. They haven't stolen the money. They are satisfying the desires of consumers better than anybody. Would it be possible to perfectly articulate some knowledge and put it into a book called Treatise on the Clothing That Looks Good on Me? No. When you go shopping, you rely on your know-how, your intuition. This looks good on me, but I can't see myself in that. It looks bad on me. But if someone asked you, can you tell me precisely why it looks good or bad on you? What the logical reasons are? You might be able to say, well, it makes me look really short, or it makes my butt look big, or it's too tight. The fact is, you know, or think you know, what looks good, and that is practical knowledge. The fashion industry always works that way, and the companies that offer the different styles use the trial and error method. Some items are successful, and others are not, but there is no manual, because entrepreneurial knowledge is not scientific knowledge, it is tacit knowledge. In the book, I give the example of golf. Why? Well, every Sunday I play golf. I am a terrible golfer. At the beginning of the season, I start out playing relatively well, and with each passing Sunday, my game gets worse. By the time the season ends in July, I am hopeless. Golf is a game that was invented by the English, and therefore it is unnatural. The English are a wacky people. You have to grip the club in a very counterintuitive way. The dominant arm is the left arm. You can't move your head during the backswing, because if you do, you won't hit the ball. You have to pull your arms back until right where your chin touches this shoulder, and then you have to come down like this with your left arm, but without moving your body, because if you move it, and then your first impulse is to look to see where the ball goes. But if you look to see where the ball goes, you botch it, because then you won't hit the ball. You have to stay there like this, without looking where the ball goes. In short, it's an English thing. And no matter how many books and treatises you read about this English thing, the only way to learn how to do it is to stand there swinging like a schmuck, like I do. And when you've swung the club 1,000 times, you say to yourself, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. And that's when you start to get the hang of it. You develop a habit, and you start hitting the ball, hopefully. That's what we hope for, but it can be pretty complicated. Practical habits of conduct. As I have mentioned in class, human relationships are also practical habits of conduct. In relationships, we learn by doing, and each person must adapt these habits to his or her own circumstances. The best way to attract a girl or a guy is not the same for everyone. What works for one person and guarantees his or her success does not necessarily guarantee the success of someone else. As I have said, we are all worlds unto ourselves, and each of us is unrepeatable. If I see that a guy is very successful and I try to copy his behavior exactly, I may fail miserably. I may be the laughing stock of all the girls and not say a word to them, and vice versa. Why? Because only by developing tacit, inarticulate knowledge, which comes from taking a chance again and again in specific circumstances of time and place, can I develop my entrepreneurial creativity. The same is true for getting a particular enterprise off the ground in the business or commercial sphere, and for helping our neighbors in need, and for acting in the areas of philanthropy and religion. There are thousands of different ways of doing things, even within the sphere of a particular religion. Suddenly, someone has a vision. He says, let's form the order of preachers. We'll go out and preach in twos. And so it was. St. Dominic, the Dominicans, and another order, the Franciscans, and another. But what is this? This is anarchy. Each person forms whatever religious order he wants. There was another man, one who was sought by the Inquisition and briefly thrown in jail. Afterwards, he went to Paris, a great paranoiac, Saint Ignatius of Loyola, founder of the Jesuits, who are organized like an army and place themselves at the Pope's disposal for whatever he might want them to do. And what is the reason for this? What do these people have to do with the others? What is the relationship between them? And then suddenly another man appeared, Monsignor Escrivá de Balaguer, and once he had been canonized, and the Opus Dei seemed very successful, yet another man came on the scene. He was playing the guitar, and his name is Kiko Argello. What is this? Well, everyone has his or her own view of the world, and in the end, though it appears a mess, as long as a basic structure of principles is accepted and maintained, time will tell. It's a sort of free market. Maybe what is successful in certain historical circumstances of time and place is not so necessary in others, but we don't know. Maybe what stands the test of time is what prevails. Life is beautiful, precisely because it is extraordinarily rich in entrepreneurial creativity, and therefore complex.